Politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty.
Good morning, Bellows Falls and Rockingham. It's Mike Smith and Marty Gallagher. We're here for the feed today. Marty's zooming in. We're doing a coping with COVID section today. She's in quarantine right now, but not been exposed, but not contagious or not infected. Have to get all my terms down. Today we're going to do some local events. Then we're going to talk with Karen Brook from Big Brother and Big Sisters. Marty, how you doing?
I'm doing good. So it's Classic Movie Wednesday, and tonight is probably one of my favorite movies, just because of the subject matter. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is this evening. So if you're looking for something fun to do, head down to the Bells Falls Opera House for Classic Movie Wednesday. If you're looking for something to do this weekend or next weekend, there is a wonderful new independent play being produced by Wild Goose Players. It's happening at Next Stage. And the name of the play is Food and Shelter. It's a play by a gentleman named Sean Hurley. It's being directed by David Stern, who we all know has directed some amazing musicals and performances at the Opera House. So I'm just going to give you a little synopsis of it because it's brand new. It's nothing that's happened in the theater in New York. It's actually this gentleman has written it. So the background is it's a newly married couple with secrets of their own. She is pregnant with someone else's baby. He might have killed it. It takes place, back up a little bit. It takes place in a cabin in the snowy woods. He might have killed the cabin's prior owner. And though the cabin provides the newlyweds with food and shelter, it seems that someone or something is determined to never let them leave. So I think it sounds like an intriguing, interesting way to spend an evening. Tickets are $35 in advance or $40 at the door, and you can go to wildgooseplayers.com to get your tickets. And again, this is an independent playwright from New Hampshire. He's a former NPR radio reporter, and his name's Sean Hurley. So
Great.
Those are my local events.
Yes, so we want to remind everybody that town meeting day is coming up in March. And if you want to get elected to a position and get your name on the town ballot, you have to have your petitions in by the 24th of January. So if you remember, we had the listers on a couple weeks ago, and they talked about their job. So it's listers. If you want to be a lister, you want to do that. If you want to be a moderator, you need to do that. If you want to run for one of the positions like a selectman or something like that, you need to get your petitions out and get them signed and get them in by the 24th. And so that's one of the things we're working on. Another thing that we're working on at Fact TV is a forum that we're going to be doing on the 16th of February it's going to be an educational forum about a item that's on the ballot. It's concerning Act 164. It's the Cannabis Retail Sales Act, and it's going to be on the ballot, and we want to do a forum to talk about what would be the impacts in Bellows Falls and what the law encompasses. And it should be interesting. We're hoping to have some people that might be interested in actually doing some sort of cannabis related business. We're going to have people from the government talking about the structure of the act itself and how it impacts different towns and cities. And then we're going to have some people talking about prevention. So sort of on the other side of, they're concerned about the impact on youth, and we'll be talking about that. So it should be an interesting forum, and we're hoping to do that on the 16th. But today we're going to talk with Karen Brook, and she's from Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Karen, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then about the organization, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, how you got involved?
Sure. I've been part of Big Brothers Big Sisters for 20 years. I was first a volunteer to a third grade little girl named Ariel, and her family signed her up. Her dad had been deployed in Afghanistan, and she was the oldest of 4 kids and just needed a little extra attention. So for 2 years officially, we were in the program, and we would meet a couple times a month, and we would go to the park, or the Humane Society was one of her favorite places. So we would go there and we would visit all the dogs and cats, or we would go out and have a meal. Just a great connection that I had with her. And when I became a staff member, I had to officially not be a big sister, but we continued to have that friendship until she graduated from high school. And
Wow.
actually, we're still friends now that we are connected through Facebook. So really, those connections can go on and on. But since becoming a staff member, I am what's known as a program coordinator. So I work with volunteers to enroll them through the process, and also working with families to find out what the needs are of their child and what they're hoping to have a volunteer do with their child.
Marty, do you have a?
Yeah, so I guess my first question is, so one of the things that the reason that you're on this month is it's National Mentoring Month. So you probably are always short on bigs, but are you particularly short now with COVID?
Yeah, definitely the numbers have slowed down. As COVID has gone on, I think people have become more and more comfortable navigating both COVID and recognizing that they want to do volunteer work or be connected in the community. I would say we're always in need of volunteers. We serve all of Vermont and parts of New Hampshire as well. And I would also say for every 9 big sisters that step up, we probably get 1 big brother. And then on the flip side, yeah, that we see a lot of families stepping up saying that their son is in a real need of needing a big brother in their life. And they want to wait until there's this positive male role model in their life. So in particular, there's always a need for male volunteers, though we welcome big sisters as well, because we know every kid has specific needs and wants in having a mentor in their life. So finding that right fit, which is one of the great things about Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's not, oh, you're at the top of the list, you're at the top of the list, good luck. It's such a thoughtful process of thinking about geographical location, interests, preferences, schedules, all these things. So putting a connection together is just a treat. And then we're supporting the big and the family throughout their time with Big Brothers Big Sisters, of checking in on them, offering them support. We get passes to events, so making sure that is happening. We used to do in-person group activities before COVID, so we're looking to have that happen again as well. So just all these benefits for being in the program for the volunteers and the family.
So I guess my questions would be about the 2 groups, the bigs and the littles. What are the age ranges and the I guess the profiles of each group? Like how young to how old are the kids, and then how young to how old are the bigs?
Yeah. So a child can be in our program starting at age 6, and probably about 16 is about as old as we would stop a new enrollment from happening, because we want to make sure they're matched in our program for at least a year. And as I was saying, there's a lot of thought going into a match, so it might not happen right away. That being said, we don't ever want people to say, oh, I'm not going to sign my kid up, because if we don't know who this kid is, we can't be on the lookout for a great volunteer for them. So please, if you're interested in signing your child up, do that. Kids age out officially at age 18 or graduating from high school. And then as far as our volunteers, we do have a small program where we have high school students we're trying to get that up and going in the Bellows Falls area. We have similar programs going on throughout the state. And then for our high school volunteers, they're meeting at one of the local schools, so they get that extra support. And then for our traditional community program, that starts at age 18, and we have no upper age limit. And I would say probably a quarter of our volunteers are in that 18 to early 30 range. And then another like half the population is at 30s through late 50s. And then the last quarter is people 60 on up. So it really is people having the time and the energy to make a commitment to a kid. And some of my most active volunteers, I would say, are senior volunteers who are retired or empty nesters, and they just have that time and the gift to spend with the kids. So it's really special when I hear stories about what they've been doing. So you're never too old to be a volunteer. I want to say that.
Right. And then are there sort of, you match people, but are there trainings or I'm trying to figure out how people get on board. How do you know what to do?
Yes, I would say there's other mentoring organizations, but what I like about Big Brothers Big Sisters is just how thoughtful it is through the whole process. We're doing an interview with the volunteers to find out what their strengths are, why they signed up to be a volunteer, their preferences, what they're hoping to get out of that time with their little. And then we're doing online trainings through the national office, has a huge library of online trainings that our volunteers can tap into. We require that they're doing at least 3 of the trainings. One, a basic experience of what it means to be a volunteer in our program. One, thinking about the impact that opioids have had in communities, and how do you talk to kids to give them resiliency to avoid opioids or other substances. And lastly, we're thinking about justice. It's called the JEDI training. It's justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So really thinking about that the kid, there's nothing wrong with the kid to begin with, that they have an opportunity to be with a mentor, and we want it to be a successful experience for the child and the mentor. So how do you do that and do it wonderfully? Our president with Big Brothers Big Sisters says that Big Brothers Big Sisters has always been in the justice organization, but like it's not a new catchword for us. That we were thinking back in 1904 about kids emigrating with their families to New York City and just needing extra people in their lives to have them have a success. And we've been going strong we're entering our 118th year. So wow. Just so thoughtful. And then ongoing training as well. So if a volunteer says, yeah, I would really like to work with this kid, but I don't really know about, fill in the blank, ADHD or childhood divorce, whatever it is, we can give the volunteers that extra support and training.
Yeah. Marty, or?
Yeah, I did have, so circling back to what you said before, I'm just going to say, I don't think it's too late for you, Mike. It sounds like, just saying, she said never too old, retired empty nester. I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyway, what is the reality of the time commitment for people? And then what beyond like obviously going through some training, what are the expectations that you have from a big or for a big?
Yeah, so we ask for a year commitment of 2 visits a month, no more than once a week, because schedules can be tough on everyone, but we want to also make sure that the big and little are making that connection. With COVID, we have learned that a connection can look like so many different things. That when we were all in lockdown, there was a lot of video connections happening. So they were playing Pictionary or just talking or doing make-believe games, all those kind of things. We are allowing in-person visits right now. So that means wearing masks when you're inside or driving your little, outside if it's comfortable. The social distancing, you can take off your mask and do an activity with your little. We expect that our volunteers are safe individuals, so they go through a rigorous background check as well from us, and we're checking in with them monthly just to make sure safety is being followed at all times.
And where are you exactly located? You said you cover all of Vermont and parts of New Hampshire, but are you local to, are you in, I'm not, maybe that's the wrong question, but you know what I mean?
Oh, no, I get that. So I am the program coordinator for the Southern Tier. So my office is in Brattleboro, and then I work with families and volunteers in Windham, Windsor, and Bennington counties. And then I have two colleagues that cover the Northwestern and the Northeast Kingdom as well.
So if a person were to volunteer and call you, and we're going to have the information up, did they go for training? Do they come in for training and to apply whenever, or do you come to them, or is it all done online? How does that look?
Oh, sure. So the application we can either do online or I can send a paper copy. Once we get the application, then we're figuring out the best way to get an interview done. So that might mean doing it with a video chat, or it might mean coming in to our office or a public location like a library or a park to do that interview. Trainings are mostly online right now, but there is a potential to do some in-person trainings as well.
Good.
And that goes with the families as well, I would say, too.
Marty?
Yeah, can you speak a little bit? I'm sure that you keep some pretty strong records and statistics. Can you speak a little bit to the impact on the littles? Like what the difference in their lives having a big makes?
Yeah, so back in the 90s, there was a study saying, what does it take for a kid to not just survive childhood, but really thrive? And the first thing they found was that a kid needs somebody other than their parent to be in their life. And then the second key was that a kid gets a chance to have a voice. So that is huge with Big Brothers Big Sisters, that the activities that they're doing is by choice for both of them. It needs to be something that they're both interested in doing and safe. And then the last thing is to explore their interest. So again, that's a chance for those activities. It might be something very specific like shooting hoops, or I had a big and little for many years, like it was always the same activity because they both really enjoyed that time together, that the big brother would pick up his little brother on a Saturday morning, they'd grab a donut, and then the big brother would take his little brother to the dump. And so they would take care of the trash and the recycling, and then they would check the free box to see what kind of project they could bring back to the big brother's garage, and they would tinker. And the little brother just thought that was the most amazing thing because, he lived in an apartment complex, and, just having a garage where you could tinker and do things like that was just the best. He was so happy each time and those activities happened. So we do so many surveys to get those statistics for us because we're nonprofits. We rely heavily on grants. So we know that kids feel better about themselves for having a volunteer. We know that they're less likely to abuse alcohol, tobacco, opioids from being in the program, and they're more likely to finish high school, just to name some of the statistics that we're keeping track of.
That's amazing. And Colin's putting up some slides so that people can see sort of how to get in contact with you now. We're down to about 5 minutes left. So we'd like to ask you to again, just say what your contact information is and how to get a hold of you and any salient points that you would like to make sure everybody gets.
Oh, sure. So our organization's email is bbbsvt.org. If you go there, you'll find information about how to enroll a child or a volunteer. My personal email is karen@bbbsvt.org. Our office phone number is 802-689-0092. And when you go on to that, or when you dial that number, you'll get options for the different parts of the state. So the program coordinator on that area would follow up with you. We do ongoing enrollments. So when you feel like the time is right, please do apply to be a volunteer or enroll your child. There's no fee to be in the program. I often hear that question from the family, and we're here to support families to have their child have the best experience in our program. So it's really exciting. I can tell you that there are 3 kids in the Bellows Falls area waiting to be matched with a volunteer. I do have one volunteer also in the area who would just like to have a virtual experience with a little, that there's some transportation issues, so she wouldn't be able to drive and pick up a little, but she has so many ideas of things that she would be able to do with a child who is interested in arts or history or creativity. So if you're thinking your child might do better with a virtual experience, I have just the volunteer for you as well.
Well, that's another interesting thing that I hadn't thought about is if you want to be a volunteer, you don't necessarily have to drive. You can do a virtual volunteering, which would, I think, open the window for a lot more people who might be interested in volunteering, especially if they're a little bit older or a little bit concerned about COVID, and that sort of has dampened people's enthusiasm about volunteering right now, and maybe a virtual volunteer experience would really help people.
Yeah, exactly. And we do shrink the amount of time that we recognize. It's really hard to engage a child for an hour virtually at times. So that commitment would be about a half an hour each time that you're going online virtually with your little.
Oh, neat. Well, Karen, I want to thank you for coming on today and giving us all this information. I hope people will contact her and open up their doors and open up their computers and start volunteering.
Yes.
Marty, any final parting words?
I was just thinking that, what the takeaway that I have is that it doesn't seem like you have to do something elaborate with your little. It seems like it's just more about time. I mean, I like this story about just going to the dump and getting a donut. That's funny, and then planning an afternoon. I think that's as simple as it gets. So I think people might think they have to do go places and do elaborate things, and it's. As I'm understanding it, it's really more about them just having some time and having a connection than necessarily what don't have to razzle dazzle them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It should be fun for you as much as it is for the little.
Okay. Well, Karen, again, thank you. And I think that's our time for today. Thank you all for tuning into the feed. I hope you'll tune in next week. Hopefully, maybe Marty will be back in studio by then. And until then, goodbye. Take it easy.
Bye, Karen.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Politics, business, sports, arts, music.